Hello students, welcome back. Myself Pushpender Singh and we are going to start with our daily current affairs. So today you have 26th of February 2021. All right, so we are basically future IAS who are bringing these classes for those students who are preparing for the civil services examination and other government competitive examination because you require to answer the few questions related to the current affairs. Specifically in the civil services examination, almost 40 to 50% of the questions basically covered from the current affairs. So for that, you must read the daily newspaper or any national newspaper, for example, the Hindu or Indian Express. Apart from that, you can also refer some of the magazines which are available in the market, and also you can subscribe our channel on the YouTube also, so Future IAS, where you will be getting the current affairs on the day-to-day basis, right? It will be helpful for your preparation in the civil services examination. All right, so let's begin with the lecture. All right, so first is basically the information technology intermediary guidelines, right? Specifically for, you know, for the digital media and ethical code rules 2021. Okay, as you know that you have lot of applications, especially the over the top, right? The application, for example, you have the WhatsApp. Okay, the WhatsApp like platform, there are many such platforms are there which are the part of the digital media. Okay, now these intermediary, the platforms which are providing lot of services, for example, WhatsApp providing lot of services like the real-time messaging, the app, like real-time sending the information, messages, video calls, right? Sending the video messages and so on and so forth. But unlike the digital media, for example, you have the television, you have, right, radio, you have other internet based access. Those are having basically some sort of a regulatory mechanism with them. Okay, but these platforms which are a part of the digital media, but they are not regulated by the government of India. Okay, so to make a level playing field for all such platforms, like that is called basically the over the top, platforms that are basically, for example, WhatsApp or something like that, so that the regulatory mechanism can also be put in the place, because a lot of issues are coming out, specifically, right, those platforms which are not regulated by the government of India. For example, you might have seen through the Delhi riots which have been taken place in the recent past. Apart from that, the 26th of January, when the farmers protested at the Red Fort, okay, lot of bogus messages, lot of, other information that was factually wrong being circulated on such platforms. Okay, that provokes the people, and basically the people started agitating. Not only about that, but also the sexually explicit material, right, which is basically supposed not to be seen by, the youngsters or the younger people or even children's. They are also circulated on the platforms. Okay, to stop such things that is happening on the platforms, a ethical, a media ethics code have been brought in. Okay, which will provide certain guidelines to regulate such platforms in India. So here the government of India has notified the information technology intermediary guidelines for the digital media ethical code rules 2021. Okay, now these rules which are framed under Information Technology Act 2000, right? This IT Act 2000 is basically, right, is a statute which was passed by the parliament, right, under the provisions of section 87 clause 2 of Information Technology Act 2000. These rules have been framed by the government of India. Okay, and this type of rule have already been framed by the government of India in 2011. So these rules which were formed in 2021, that will supersede the earlier rules that were framed in 2011. Okay, now there are certain parts of these rules. For example, the part 2 of these rules provide, right, certain issues which may be administered by the Ministry of Electronics, okay, and IT, right? And then part 3 of these rules basically deals with the ethical conduct of the people on the platform. So here it will be having the code of ethics and certain safeguards and the procedures which will be related to the digital media. Okay, such ethical safeguard and the procedures would be administered by the Ministry of Information and the Broadcasting. Okay, so a lot of government of India's, a lot of ministries are involved in framing of these laws, and that will have, their own jurisdiction for enforcement of these rules. Okay, now certain salient features related to these rules. First of all, right, those intermediaries which are working on the digital media platform, they should be given a due diligence. Okay, right. So those intermediaries which are working, including all social media intermediaries, right, those who do not follow the due diligence, okay, right, these safe harbor provisions will not be applicable to those no intermediaries, and the penal action will be taken against those intermediaries. Next, the rules which makes the distinction between the social media intermediaries and the significant social media intermediaries. Okay, then there are certain sub classification of those social media intermediaries, based on which it should not also impede or restrict, right, the growth of the social media, because you also need the social media platform where the people can openly express their, their demands, their concerns, their grievances. So that is altogether a fine thing. But if those platforms have been misused by the people for provocating the people, for inciting the people, for making offenses, for circulating the sexual implicit material, all such things makes the social media platform a vulnerable, right, which can be used by, the mischievous persons to target certain sections of the society. All right, so these platforms should have certain, compliance requirement with that. Now you can understand that government of India also brought that all social media intermediaries or significant social media intermediaries should appoint a chief compliance officer. The chief compliance officer would be the concerned person who would be complying with the rules which are framed by the government of India. Okay, so his main responsibility is to look after whether the intermediary is complying with the rules which have been made by the government of India or not. Next, the nodal contact person. Nodal contact person is a person, right? If anyone has the grievances, the person can directly contact that nodal contact person for resolving any sort of a grievances related to that platform. Then resident grievances officer would also work in the assistance with the nodal contact officer to resolve such grievances related to the platform. Okay, now the code of ethics for online news. Okay, for example, you have a lot of websites, you have a lot of platforms which provides you the online news. Sometimes these news are paid, right, or sometimes these news are fabricated, or these news are factually wrong. Okay, you might have seen also the wrong information is basically circulated on the media, on the OTT platforms like WhatsApp also, and also other digital media platform. Now the code of ethics basically, which were framed under the rules, have been prescribing the guidelines which are supposed to be followed by these OTT platforms, right, which may be the online news platform or digital media platform. Now government of India also want that the content means the information which is basically provided by this OTT platform or the digital media should have self sub classification. Self sub classification means you should classify what type of information is circulating on the media. Okay, so here the publisher of online, that means whoever the publisher of online information should classify that information. Okay, should exactly tell the information that what type of information is it. That means it is based on the age of a person, whether the person, right, whether this class of classification is based on some, some basically, terminology. For example, if the classification of the information is you means universal, that means it can be universally applicable. It is very general information. Okay, then UA7 plus, UA7 plus means it can be viewed only by the children who are 7 plus of years of the age. Okay, then you have UA13 plus, that means those children who are 13 plus of their age, right, they can look such information. Then UA16 plus, that means such information can be viewed only, or should be viewed only by those adults or those children who are 16 plus of the age. And then ultimately A means adult. That means information can be viewed by any adult person who are above 18 years of the age. So such subclassification is warranted by the rules which is framed by the government of India. Now the platform, government of India also want that the platform should be having certain parental lock. Okay, parental lock का मतलब होता है certain measures. For example, you might have seen in your televisions also, in your connections, where the parent can lock certain channels if the children is watching that particular channel, and which is supposed to be not viewed by the children. So certain like mechanism should be there, so that a parental lock for the content, right, if that is classified based on the age, right? If for example, if the classification for the content is A, that means it can be viewable by the adult and it should not be viewable by a children, right? Let's say 16 plus. So you should have certain set of parental locks which can be used for basically, age verification, specifically for the age verification mechanism, right, to stop such, the misuse of such information. All right. So here the Prakash Javadekar, who is basically the union information and the broadcasting minister, what he says that the digital media platform have no monitoring mechanism, except you have, for example, you have the television, radio, these are all having a certain set of regulatory mechanism, but the WhatsApp, like the OTT features, are do not having, regulatory mechanism, right? So the Prakash Javadekar want that there shall be a level playing field, right? Now the all media platforms should have the same justice system which is applicable to all. Next, the Ravi Shankar Prasad, who is the Union Minister of Electronics and IT, what he says that the government welcomes the criticism and right to dissent. Okay, so the dissent is the most important cardinal feature of any democratic system. So the Ravi Shankar Prasad welcomed the dissent which is being expressed through the social media platform, digital media platform. But he also says that since this media platform runs across crores of the people, right, it should also have the mechanism by which the people can file their grievances, the people can raise their complaints about the abuse of the social media. So that is the true, right? We should have certain mechanism by which we can regulate the social media, digital media, so that it cannot be misused, right, for the vested interest, all right. Let's see the second news, the development projects in the Coimbatore. Okay, so Coimbatore is basically a district in the Tamil Nadu. Okay, it's a very beautiful place, it's a hill station, very beautiful place. Okay, so the Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated and laid foundation of the various developmental projects in the Coimbatore, which is a district in the Tamil Nadu. Okay, so the Prime Minister Narendra Modi went there and inaugurated various developmental projects. So first is basically he has dedicated to the nation 1000 megawatt of the Neyveli new thermal power project. Okay, so that is a thermal power plant which is of the capacity of 1000 megawatt, right, which have been dedicated to the nation. And then 709 megawatt of solar power project which is basically implemented by the Neyveli Lignite Corporation India Limited, that is called NLCIL, which is a PSU under government of India, right? So both of these projects are basically related to the Neyveli Lignite Corporation of India Limited. 1000 megawatt of the thermal power plant and 709 megawatt of the solar power plant have been dedicated to the nation by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Okay, then the Prime Minister Narendra Modi also, right, laid a foundation stone for, commissioning of, for design and the supply and installation of the 5 megawatt of grid connected ground based, solar power plant. This grid connected ground based solar power plant basically would be constructed at BO Chittambarnar port, right, in the Coimbatore, right, and that will provide, much needed, electricity to the port and the adjacent area. All right, and also it will be used for the extension, renovation and the modernization of the lower Bhavani project system which is there in the port area. All right, next, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi also laid a foundation stone for the development of the integrated command and control centers. What is this integrated command and control centers? They are basically a center, or they are basically platform where all departments can synergize, they can coordinate, they can cooperate in the case of any sort of a planning or in the case of emergency. So such integrated command and control centers have been set up in the 9 smart cities. All 9 smart cities are located in Tamil Nadu. These nine smart cities are Coimbatore, Madurai, Salem, Tanjavur, Vellore, Tiruchirappalli, Tirupur, Tirunelveli, and Tuticorin. Right? These are all districts in the Tamil Nadu state. All right. Then the Prime Minister Narendra Modi also inaugurated 8 laning of Korampallam Bridge. Okay. Again at BO Chittambarnar Port. So this bridge, along with the rail over bridge, right, have been inaugurated by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Okay. And also Prime Minister Narendra Modi also inaugurated the tenements which is constructed under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana urban scheme. All right. So also the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, you can see this picture. Prime Minister Narendra Modi basically offering, right, the flowers to the Jayalalitha and her mentor. All right. Next, the LPG transportation through inland waterway. LPG means liquefied petroleum gas. Okay, that we used in our household cooking purpose, right, as well as in the industrial purpose also. So LPG is very important for the household fuel. Okay, now what is happening is the LPG is basically transported, right? Obviously the LPG is transported by the road or by the trains. Okay, now you must understand that the cheapest mode of transportation, is waterways. Okay, the second cheapest mode of transportation is basically for the longer distance is railways, right? For the shorter distance it is the roadways, and the most expensive mode of transportation is airways. So the most cheapest mode of transportation is waterways, the most expensive mode of transportation is airways, the most cheapest ways of mode of transportation for the longer distance, that is railways. The most cheapest mode of transportation on the road is basically railways. If you are going to the shorter distance, it is for the roadways. If you are going for the longer distance and the cheapest mode, that is your waterways. Okay, railways somewhat in between, but the most expensive is your airways. All right. So what is happening is that government of India has now decided that the LPG will be transported instead of railways and the roadways through the inland waterways. The inland waterways where the ships or the ferries will be transporting the LPG containers, right? Specifically the National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 2. Okay, these waterways will be used, right, for the transportation of LPG through the inland waterways. So obviously, if you are using this inland waterway, you are reducing the logistic cost. Logistic cost का मतलब होता है the cost for the transportation of particular commodity. So that is called logistic cost. So logistic cost in India is very high. In India, the logistic cost is around 13 to 14% of the GDP, which is on the higher side. But if you take the world average, which is around 8% of the GDP, so India is having higher percentage of the logistic cost in all sectors, that is around 13 to 14% of the GDP. The government is eyeing to reduce this logistic cost, and this would be the innovative method, or this would be the innovative way by which you can reduce the logistic cost by switching over to the inland waterways for the transportation of LPG. So here, right, the LPG will be transported through the inland waterways, right? A MOU was signed between the Inland Waterways Authority of India and the basically MOL Group. MOL Group is basically the world largest gas container company. It is the basically in the container company, world largest container company, which is basically transport the gas filled containers from one jurisdiction to the another jurisdiction. So right, so Inland Waterways Authority of India and MOL Group will basically have signed an MOU. The MOL will basically would invest first of all in the construction and operation of the dedicated LPG barges, right? These LPG barges will be constructed under Make in India initiative. So the benefit that is coming out through this MOU is that, first of all, a dedicated LPG terminal will be constructed by an MOL group. Okay, obviously in that the much needed finance and the infrastructure will also be boosted, right? And simultaneously, right, the shipping lanes will also be used for the transportation purpose, specifically for the LPG. Okay, now as I told you that the logistic cost in India around 13 to 14%, right? The best way to reduce the logistic cost is to switch over to the waterways, but due to non-perenniality of the rivers, right? Due to the seasonal nature of the rivers, now it is very difficult to switch over to the waterways, except the waterways one, National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 2. Okay, and also this MOU would also be useful for the Ujjwala scheme, under which the government of India is providing the subsidized LPG connections to the people who are basically residing in the below poverty line. Okay, so you can see it is basically a container, or it is basically a ferry or ship which is basically transporting, the consignment. Okay, next is Global Bio India 2021. So what is Global Bio India? Global Bio India is nothing but it is a basically, basically a campaign which will be right in the biotechnology sector, right? So it is basically a campaign or a conclave which will be in the biotechnology sector. It is the second edition of Bio India or Global Bio India campaign, which will be organized from 1st March to 3rd March. Since due to the corona and COVID related pandemic, now it is not possible to organize Global Bio India 2021 in the offline mode. So it will be dedicated, or it will be organized only on the digital platform. This year it will not be organized, right, on the basically on the ground. So here, right, in the India's showcasing the India's biotechnology sector in the national level as well as in the global community, at the global level, the India is organizing the Global Bio India 2021 conclave. Okay, this year the theme for Global Bio India 2021 is transforming lives, and that is the tagline which is used for Global Bio India 2021 is biosciences for bioeconomy. Biosciences for bioeconomy. So here in the Global Bio India 2021, almost 50 plus countries are participating. Okay, so 50 plus countries are participating in the field of biotechnology, including the Switzerland, which is a partner country of India of conducting this Global Bio India 2021, along with Karnataka is the partner state this year, right? So Switzerland is basically a partner country and Karnataka is basically a partner state, okay, for conducting this Global Bio India 2021. Okay, now if you say the Global Bio India 2021 is co-organized by the Department of Biotechnology, right, along with a PSU which is known as the Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, that is called BIRAC, right, as well as with the assistance from the Invest India. The first edition of Global Bio India 2019 was organized in New Delhi. It was organized in New Delhi. Okay, and this is the second edition of Global Bio India Conclave, which will be organized now on the virtual platform. All right. So it is a banner for Global Bio India campaign. You can see it is basically the transforming lives, biosciences to the bioeconomy from 1st March to the 3rd March on the digital platform. All right. Let's move to the next news, that is Swachh Iconic Palaces. What is Swachh Iconic Places, right? So Swachh Iconic Places initiative was implemented under Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. Okay, so these Swachh Iconic Places which have been selected, right, as a heritage and a spiritual, as a cultural places. So these Swachh Iconic Places are implemented or started under Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. Okay, these Swachh Iconic Places are basically your heritage sites, your spiritual sites, or your cultural sites. Okay, under the Swachh tourist destinations. So now the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation under Ministry of Jal Shakti, okay, which is the nodal ministry of finding out and selecting these Swachh Iconic Places, have announced the selection of these 12 iconic sites, right? So Ministry of Jal Shakti, Department of Drinking Water and the Sanitation have selected the 12 iconic sites under phase 4 of Swachh Iconic Places. Okay, so these 12 sites have been selected, which are included into the phase 4 of Swachh Iconic Places under Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. Okay, these are basically the sites which are heritage sites, spiritual sites, and cultural sites, right? And that will be the sites which can be the Swachh tourist destinations, right? So here the most important objective of the Swachh Iconic Places is to achieve the distinctive higher level of sanitation and the cleanliness. Obviously, the Swachh Iconic Places, that name itself suggests, is the government of India is trying to make them as cleaner as they can. So it is basically to make them, right, the the higher level of sanitation and the cleanliness at that places, right, as well as not only at that places but also the peripheral areas as well as the approach areas, so that it can become the Swachh tourist destinations ultimately. Okay, so Swachh Iconic Places is being coordinated by the Department of Drinking Water and the Sanitation under Ministry of Jal Shakti, and it is also coordinated in association with the Ministry of Housing Urban Affairs, that is MOHUA, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Culture, and the concerned state and UT governments. Okay, now these 12 places which are selected under Swachh Iconic Places are the Ajanta Caves in the Maharashtra. Okay, then Sanchi Stupa, which is located in Madhya Pradesh, then Kumbhalgarh Fort, which is located in the Rajasthan, then Jaisalmer Fort, which is located in the Rajasthan, then Ramdevra Fort, which is located in the Jaisalmer, Rajasthan, then Golconda Fort, which is located in the Hyderabad, Telangana. Okay, then Sun Temple, which is located in the Konark, Orissa. Okay, then Rock Garden, which is located in Chandigarh, then Dal Lake, which is located in the Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, then Banke Bihari Temple, which is located in the Mathura, Uttar Pradesh. Okay, then Agra Fort, which is located in the Agra, Uttar Pradesh, and Kali Ghat Temple, which is located in West Bengal. So these are the 12 iconic Swachh Iconic Places which have been selected by the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation under Department of Drinking Water and the Sanitation under Ministry of Jal Shakti. Okay, so you can see these are the places which have been recently selected as a Swachh Iconic Places. All right, next, the City Innovation Exchange, that is called CIX platform. What is that CIX platform? So first of all, it is a platform where all stakeholders, specifically in the urban areas, can collaborate, can coordinate. Now, the name itself suggests it is City Innovation Exchange. What is City Innovation Exchange? Right? Innovation means you have a lot of problems in the urban areas, specifically in the city. Like, first of all, the biggest problem is pollution. The biggest problem is pollution. Okay. The another biggest problem is basically what we are facing is basically the problem with respect to the drinking water, right? Other bigger problem what we are facing is dwelling shortage, right? We don't have enough dwelling units, right? Other problem is basically related to congestion, related to the slum, related to the insufficient infrastructure facilities like piped water supply, right? Then you're basically garbage collection, solid waste deposition, right? Solid waste management. Lot of other problems are there. Okay, now this City Innovation Exchange basically is a platform which will try to find out innovative solutions, okay, to such challenges in the urban areas. Now, this City Innovation Exchange platform, first of all, was launched by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay, now this City Innovation Exchange would connect the cities to the innovators. Okay, who can be these innovators? Okay, according to the City Innovation Exchange platform, anyone can be an innovator. Okay, so that means the cities will be connected to the ecosystem which will have the innovators. These innovators may be, right, the citizens organizations, okay, academicians, okay, then business persons, government agencies, right? These all are the stakeholders or maybe innovators that can collaborate among themselves for the future of the urban India in the transparent and the sustainable manner for finding the solutions to the challenges which is related to the urban areas. Okay. Now, this platform will ease the discovery, design, and the validation of the solutions, right? Through a robust and a transparent process. Obviously, you need the transparent process. You must need the robustness, and you also need the user-centric process, right? So that it can validate the design and the discovery of such innovative solutions. Okay, and also it can reduce the barriers which is related to the innovators, right, which is basically the ready to use certain solutions specifically in the urban areas. Now, for your information, the platform basically consisting of more than 400 startups. So the platform has more than 400 startups. It also have the 100 smart cities, and also 150 challenge statements, and over 215 solutions at the time of the launch of this platform. Okay, so you can see the city innovation challenge, which is basically a platform for such information. Okay, next, Mahamrityunjay temple. Okay, so the Mahamrityunjay temple is basically located in the Naugam in the Assam region. Okay, in the Assam state. So what happening is, the Union Home Minister Amit Shah recently, attended the consecration ceremony. Okay, the consecration ceremony of the Mahamrityunjay temple in the Naugam in the Assam state. Okay, now the Union Home Minister Amit Shah basically participated in this ceremony in this temple, which is basically known for the world tallest, the shivling. So this temple has world tallest shivling, that is 126 feet. So this shivling, which is located in this Mahamrityunjay temple in the Naugam in the Assam, has 126 feet shivling, which is the world largest, world highest shivling. Okay, right, located in any temple. Okay, and also the Home Minister Amit Shah also visited, right, the Bordua pilgrimage. It is basically, a birthplace of the Srimant Shankardev. The Srimant Shankardev is basically Mahapurush in the Assam state, right, who had started the Vaishnav traditions. These Vaishnav traditions are very highly, flourished during the Shankardev time, and now, right, to make the contribution to make this Vaishnav tradition vibrant, the Shankardev has put a great contribution in this field. So the Amit Shah also visited the pilgrimage site where the Shankardev started this Vaishnava traditions. Okay, then the Mahamrityunjay mantra, which is basically we have used. For example, you might have seen that Triumbakam mantra, Triumbakam, that is associated with the Lord Shiva. So what is this Triambaka means? Triambaka means it is the 3-eye one. That means the person who has 3-eye. Who has the 3-eye? That we have seen in the photograph, that Lord Shiva has third eye. Lord Shiva has the third eye. So that is the epithet of Rudra. Epithet of Rudra, right? Who is identified as Shiva. Who is identified as Lord Shiva. So this Triambakam mantra, which is basically associated with this Mahamrityunjay temple, is a verse of a Rig Veda. It's a verse of Rig Veda. Now, this verse is also occurred in the Yajurveda. In the Yajurveda also, so which is basically associated with this temple also. Okay, so you can see this shivling, which is 126 feet high, which is the world highest shivling, right, ever found, right, in any temple. Then integrated bamboo treatment plant. So now you must understand, as the name suggests, integrated bamboo treatment plant. What is that? So that is a bamboo treatment plant, right, which is basically used for for construction of, or for manufacturing of items which is made up of the wood, which is made up of bamboo, right? For example, you have the bamboo related products, like for example, you have the incense sticks, agarbattis, right, which may be having the bamboo stick, right? Then you have, certain, like, the weaving of, cascade or something like that, which is made up of bamboo. So this integrated bamboo treatment plant will help in that value addition of the bamboo sticks, right, specifically in the northeastern region. So here the Union Minister of Development of Northeastern Region, which is known as DONER, it is a separate minister which will look after the development of northeastern region. So this minister of the development of northeastern region have inaugurated the integrated bamboo treatment plant, which is basically, having the latest technology of bamboo processing, right, which is located in the premises of the Northeast Cane and the Bamboo Development Council, which is located in the Bainihart nearby Guwahati. Guwahati is the capital of Assam. Okay, so this integrated bamboo treatment plant is located nearby Guwahati, right? This plant will be using the vacuum pressure impregnation technique, right? And that will be useful for specifically for the cultivators which cultivate the bamboo, as well as it will also be useful for the indigenous production of certain bamboo sticks, right? And bamboo related products which are generally being imported from some of the Western countries. Okay, now this initiative of the central government to make India self-reliant in the bamboo industries, as well as it will also help in creation of the employment in this sector. Okay, now other information in this regard is that in the Jammu and Kashmir also, the 3 bamboo clusters have been identified. Okay, these 3 bamboo clusters will be identified, and that will be collaborated with the Northeast Cane and the Bamboo Development Council. And these 3 bamboo clusters in the Jammu and Kashmir, right, each of these clusters will be devoted for the production of the bamboo sticks, for the production of the agarbatti sticks, which will be having the the wood which is basically taken, or the stick basically taken from the bamboo, then baskets which is basically made up of bamboo, and the charcoal which is also originated from bamboo. So it will be devoted for the production of this these items. Now the homegrown bamboo, right, it is right, if the bamboo is basically not homegrown, if it is imported, it is comes under the Indian Forest Act and basically attracts some sort of a the duties, some sort of a duties, which is also in the tune of 35%. But if you have the homegrown bamboo, it is basically exempted from the purview of Indian Forest Act. That means you can grow the bamboo, which can be cheap also, and it will also help in doing business also, specifically in the bamboo sector for the younger entrepreneurs, right? If you see recently, due to the COVID-19 crisis, what happens is the India was also importing this agarbatti, right? Agarbatti means incense sticks, which is made up of bamboo, right? The country India has increased the the basically the import duty on such agarbattis, which is mainly consisting of the bamboo sticks. Now what will happen if the import duty will increase, right? They will become costly. If they become costly, what will happen? It will incentivize the domestic industries to process the bamboo stick and to make the such agarbattis made up of the bamboo stick. So ultimately, by increasing this import duty will be beneficial for the domestic manufacturing industries, specifically in the field of the bamboo and its related manufacturing process. All right. Then the India Toy Fair. Okay, you might have seen that. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his Man Ki Baat program, okay, in August 2020, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the toy industries is more than 7 lakh crore rupees, industry. And such toy industry is, if you see in the market, in the Indian market, completely filled with Chinese made toys, because Chinese made toys are very cheap, right? Some of these toys are coming illegally also, right, through smuggling also, right? Because we have the border connectivity with the China, so these toys are basically smuggled into the India through the smugglers. Okay, and these are available in the markets also. Some of the toys and some of the lightnings, right, that you see during the Diwali also in the market, they are smuggled items which are come through smuggling, right? So what is happening is, since India is dependent on such items on the China specifically, because China produces such items in the bulk very cheaply. Okay, so to reduce the reliance on the import of such items, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi also stressed on the manufacturing of the toys in India. Okay, this toy industry is very, very vibrant also, right? It will also fight to the aspirations of the people. Okay, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi also says that it will boost the manufacturing process in India. Pursuance of his objective of the Man Ki Baat, which he addressed in August 2020, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the India's Toy Fair 2021. This India's Toy Fair will be inaugurated on 27th of February 2021. Okay, that is from tomorrow. Okay, this toy fair will be on the virtual platform. It will not be organized on the ground. It will be on the virtual platform. Okay, and it will be organized in the lines of the vision of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It will be organized on the virtual platform from 27th of February to 2nd March 2021. Okay, now this India Toy Fair 2021 will be a platform which will have all stakeholders. That means you will have the buyers, you will have the sellers, you will have the students, teachers, designers, right, as well as the young entrepreneurs, right, which can basically facilitate the better coordination and cooperation to have the sustainable linkages in this sector, which will be helpful in the development of industry, which is the toy industries. All right, so that is the India Toy Fair 2021. All right, then last, the second Khelo India National Winter Game. So that is the under Khelo India campaign or under Khelo India banner, the India's national winter game is going to be held in the basically Gulmarg in the Kashmir region. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the inaugural address on the second Khelo India National Winter Games, which will be going to be inaugurated in the Gulmarg in the Kashmir region on 26th of February 2021. Okay, so these games, which will be held from 26th of February to 2nd of March 2021, right? This event will be organized by the Union Sports Ministry, the Union Ministry of Youth Affairs and the Sports, in the collaboration of the Jammu and Kashmir Sports Council and Winter Games Association of Jammu and Kashmir. All right. So here the sports activities which will be organized, right, in this sports competition will be the alpine skiing, then Nordic skiing, snowboarding, then sky mountaineering, then ice hockey, ice skating, then ice stock, etc. So the games which will be included in the Khelo India National Winter Games, specifically in the Gulmarg region, is related to the ice, because it is the ice filled or ice covered, the ground will be there. So it will be alpine skiing, Nordic ski, snowboarding, sky mountaineering, right, ice hockey, ice skating, so which will be ice related. Now 27 states in India and union territories basically participating in this Khelo India campaign, which have already sent their teams to the Gulmarg in the Jammu and Kashmir. So it is the Gulmarg, which is basically a place in the Jammu and Kashmir region where this Khelo India National Winter Games will be held. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much those who attended this session. We will meet again